What if I told you that the most powerful medicine your body has ever needed is not sitting on a pharmacy shelf? It is sitting quietly in a jar on someone's kitchen counter, bubbling away, doing something that modern science is only now beginning to fully understand. For thousands of years, healers across every civilization on Earth knew something that most of us have completely forgotten. They knew that food, when allowed to ferment, transforms into something far more powerful than nutrition alone. It becomes a living force that rebuilds the gut, calms the immune system, lowers inflammation, and even sharpens the mind. Today on Evergreen Garden, we are going to walk through 20 of the most powerful fermented foods ever discovered, some ancient, some surprising, and at least one that is going to completely change the way you think about what belongs in your kitchen. I am Timothy, and if you are new here, welcome. Hit that subscribe button right now because every week we bring you the kind of natural health and garden knowledge that most doctors never learned in school. Now stay with me, because number 7 is one that almost every American already has access to, and most people are throwing away the one version that actually works. Before we get into the list, here is something worth understanding. Fermentation is not just a cooking method. It is a biological process where naturally occurring bacteria and yeast break down sugars in food, producing beneficial compounds including probiotics, enzymes, vitamins, and short-chain fatty acids. These compounds feed the good bacteria living in your gut, and your gut is where roughly 70% of your immune system lives. When your gut is healthy, almost everything else follows. And when it is not, almost nothing else works right. Keep that in mind as we go through each one of these, because it changes everything. Number 1, kefir. If you have never heard of kefir, you are not alone, but that is about to change. Kefir is a fermented milk drink that originated centuries ago in the Caucasus Mountains, the region between Russia and the Middle East, where shepherds discovered that milk stored in leather pouches would naturally ferment into something thick, slightly tangy, and remarkably energizing. The locals called it the gift of the prophet, because they believed it was so powerful it had to be divine. Modern science has since caught up. Researchers have identified over 30 distinct strains of beneficial bacteria and yeasts in a single cup of traditionally made kefir, far more than you will find in almost any commercial yogurt. A study published in the Journal of Dairy Science found that kefir significantly reduced markers of inflammation in participants with metabolic syndrome. It has also been shown to help reduce blood pressure, improve cholesterol levels, and support bone density, which is especially important as we get older. The practical takeaway here is straightforward. Look for plain, full-fat kefir at your grocery store. Avoid the sweetened versions, because added sugar works against everything you are trying to accomplish. A small glass each morning is a very good start. Think of kefir as a full cleanup crew for your gut, one that shows up every single morning and gets to work. Number 2, sauerkraut. Sauerkraut is one of the oldest fermented foods in human history, and it has an origin story that most people do not know. It was not invented in Germany. Chinese laborers building the Great Wall over 2,000 years ago ate fermented cabbage to stay strong through the brutal winters. The Romans carried it through their military campaigns across Europe. By the time German and Eastern European cultures made it their own, sauerkraut had already been feeding people through famines, wars, and long sea voyages for centuries. Captain James Cook famously loaded his ships with 60 barrels of sauerkraut on his voyages in the 1770s, specifically to prevent scurvy in his crew. It worked. The vitamin C preserved through fermentation kept his sailors alive when other crews were dying. Here is what the science tells us today. Sauerkraut contains lactobacillus bacteria that produce lactic acid, which both preserves the cabbage and directly feeds the healthy bacteria in your colon. It is also rich in vitamin K2, which most Americans are severely deficient in, and which plays a direct role in directing calcium to your bones rather than your arteries. One critical point: you must buy raw, unpasteurized sauerkraut, or make your own. The pasteurized version sold in most canned goods aisles has had its beneficial bacteria killed by heat. Look for it in the refrigerated section. Think of raw sauerkraut as a daily deposit into your body's health account, one that earns interest in ways you will feel in your joints, your energy, and your digestion. Number 3. Kimchi. South Korea consistently ranks among the healthiest nations on Earth, and many researchers believe kimchi is a significant reason why. This traditional fermented vegetable dish, most commonly made with cabbage, radish, garlic, ginger, and red pepper, has been central to Korean cooking for over 1,000 years. Every household has its own recipe. Every recipe produces something slightly different, and that variety is part of what makes it so powerful. Kimchi is loaded with a specific strain of probiotic called Lactobacillus plantarum, which has been studied for its ability to reduce gut inflammation, fight harmful bacteria, and even modulate the immune response. A fascinating study published in the Journal of Medicinal Food found that participants who consumed kimchi regularly showed measurable improvements in their cholesterol levels and fasting blood sugar within just a few weeks. But what really makes kimchi stand out is the garlic and ginger content, which remain intact through fermentation and add their own anti-inflammatory and antimicrobial properties on top of the probiotic benefits. You can find kimchi at most major grocery stores now in the refrigerated section. Start with a small amount if you are new to it, as the flavors are bold and take a little getting used to. Think of kimchi as a fireworks show for your immune system, where every single ingredient is part of the display. Number 4. Kombucha. What started as an ancient Chinese tea drink called the tea of immortality has become one of the fastest-growing beverages in the United States. And while some of the health claims on store bottles are overstated, the science behind the core benefits is real. Kombucha is made by fermenting sweetened black or green tea with a symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast called a SCOBY. The fermentation process produces acetic acid, B vitamins, enzymes, and a range of organic acids that support liver function and digestion. The tea base itself is already rich in polyphenols, making some of them more bioavailable than they would be in a regular cup of tea. Research has also found that kombucha can support healthy blood sugar regulation, which is a major concern for millions of older Americans. Choose kombucha with lower sugar content, ideally under 4 grams per serving, and check the label to make sure it contains live cultures. And stay tuned, because number 10 on our list is going to surprise you in a very similar way. Think of kombucha as a gentle daily tune-up for your liver, the kind of maintenance your body has been quietly asking for. Number 5. Miso. Miso is one of Japan's most treasured ingredients, and the Japanese relationship with this fermented soybean paste goes back over 1,000 years. Warriors consumed miso soup before battle. Samurai ate it to build strength. Farmers relied on it through long, cold winters when fresh food was scarce. For most of Japanese history, miso was considered not just food, but medicine. Made by fermenting soybeans with a mold called Aspergillus oryzae and salt, miso develops into a deeply complex paste rich in probiotics, protein, B vitamins, and a compound called genistein, which has been studied for its potential to support healthy hormone balance. A landmark study by Japan's National Cancer Center found that women who consumed miso soup daily had a significantly lower risk of breast cancer compared to those who rarely consumed it. Miso is also one of the rare high-sodium foods that appears to have a neutral or even beneficial effect on blood pressure, likely because its fermented compounds counteract the typical sodium response in the body. Use a small spoonful stirred into warm water with a little seaweed and green onion, and you have one of the oldest healing tonics in the world. Think of miso as centuries of collective wisdom pressed into a single spoonful every morning starting today. Number 6. Tempeh. Most Americans know tofu, but tempeh is the version they should know better. Also made from soybeans, tempeh is fermented using a mold called Rhizopus oligosporus, and the result is a firm, nutty-flavored cake that is nutritionally far superior to its more famous cousin. The fermentation process partially breaks down the phytic acid in soybeans, an anti-nutrient that blocks mineral absorption, which means your body can actually access the protein, zinc, and iron in tempeh far more effectively than in unfermented soy products. Tempeh originated in Indonesia hundreds of years ago and remains a dietary cornerstone there today. It is an excellent source of plant-based protein, with roughly 19 grams per 3-ounce serving, making it a valuable food for older adults who often struggle to maintain muscle mass. Research has also shown that tempeh's probiotic content can positively influence gut microbiome diversity, which is increasingly linked to cognitive health and mood regulation. You can find tempeh in most health food stores and in the refrigerated section of many larger supermarkets. It takes on the flavor of whatever you cook it with, making it one of the most versatile fermented foods on this list. Think of tempeh as a quiet powerhouse, the kind that does its best work when nobody is looking. Number 7. Traditional full-fat yogurt. Here's the one I promised you earlier, yogurt. You almost certainly already buy it, but there is a very good chance you are buying the version that has most of its healing power stripped away. The yogurt you want is plain, full-fat, and made with live active cultures. That is it, not low-fat, not flavored, not sweetened with fruit on the bottom. Yogurt has been a healing food across the Middle East, Eastern Europe, and South Asia for millennia. Nomadic peoples fermented milk into yogurt because it preserved longer, and because they noticed, over generations, that it kept their digestion strong. Modern research has confirmed what they observed. The live cultures in genuine yogurt, particularly Lactobacillus acidophilus and Bifidobacterium, directly seed the gut with beneficial bacteria that reduce bloating, support bowel regularity, and lower systemic inflammation. Full-fat yogurt also contains valuable fat-soluble vitamins, including A, D, and K2, which are nearly absent in low-fat versions. Studies have also connected regular full-fat yogurt consumption with lower rates of type 2 diabetes and metabolic syndrome, which are two of the most pressing health concerns facing older Americans today. Buy the plain version and add a drizzle of raw honey if you want sweetness. Think of full-fat yogurt as returning to the version your grandparents ate before the food industry told you to be afraid of fat. Number 8. Apple cider vinegar. Apple cider vinegar has a reputation that sometimes gets ahead of itself, but when you look past the exaggerated claims and focus on what the research actually shows, there is real and meaningful substance here. Raw, unfiltered apple cider vinegar, the kind with what is called the mother visible as a cloudy sediment in the bottle, is a fermented product created through a two-stage process. First, apple sugars ferment into alcohol. Then acetic acid bacteria convert that alcohol into vinegar. The mother itself is a collection of beneficial bacteria, enzymes, and proteins. Hippocrates, widely considered the father of Western medicine, used vinegar medicinally over 2,000 years ago. Ancient Babylonian records dating back to 5000 BC mention fermented apple beverages being used as a health tonic. The knowledge goes that far back. Today, clinical research has validated several specific benefits. A study published in Diabetes Care found that participants who consumed 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar before a high-carbohydrate meal had significantly lower blood sugar spikes compared to those who did not. Other research has linked regular consumption to modest improvements in cholesterol and triglyceride levels. 2 tablespoons diluted in a glass of water before meals is the most commonly studied dose. Think of apple cider vinegar as a small act of daily wisdom that your blood sugar will thank you for by morning. Number 9. Natto. This is the one that tends to divide people immediately. And I want you to stay with me here, because the health benefits of natto are among the most extraordinary of anything on this entire list. Natto is a Japanese fermented soybean food with a sticky, stringy texture and a very strong, pungent smell that most Americans find alarming the first time they encounter it. It has been eaten in Japan for over 1,000 years, particularly in the northeastern region, and it is consumed for breakfast by millions of Japanese people to this day. Here's what makes natto uniquely powerful. It is the single richest dietary source of vitamin K2 on the planet, specifically the MK7 form, which stays active in your bloodstream for up to 3 days, far longer than any other form of K2. Vitamin K2 is what directs calcium away from your arterial walls and into your bones where it belongs. Calcified arteries are one of the leading contributors to cardiovascular disease, and most Americans are severely deficient in K2. Natto also contains an enzyme called nattokinase, which research suggests can help dissolve dangerous fibrin proteins in the blood that contribute to clot formation. You can find natto in most Asian grocery stores sold frozen. It is typically served over rice with soy sauce and a raw egg yolk, but even a small amount eaten a few times a week provides genuinely remarkable benefits. Think of natto as the most unfamiliar food on this list, and also, quietly, one of the most important. Number 10. Bread kvass. Long before kombucha became fashionable in American health food stores, Eastern European households had been drinking kvass for over 1,000 years. Traditional bread kvass is made by fermenting stale rye bread with water and a small amount of natural yeast, resulting in a lightly carbonated, mildly sour drink with a deep, earthy flavor. It was the everyday beverage of Russian and Ukrainian peasants through centuries of hard living, and it sustained entire populations through harsh winters and food shortages. The fermentation of rye bread creates a drink rich in B vitamins, amino acids, and lactic acid-producing bacteria that directly benefit the gut lining. Unlike many modern fermented drinks that are heavily diluted or processed, traditional kvass is simple and raw. Research into kvass specifically is still limited compared to more studied fermented foods, but its composition mirrors that of other lactic acid fermented beverages whose benefits are well established. You can make a simple version at home using sliced, toasted rye bread, water, a pinch of sugar, and thyme. It is worth looking up a basic recipe because it is one of the most affordable fermented foods you can make from scratch, and nothing about it is complicated. Think of kvass as the original energy drink, one that never needed a marketing campaign because it simply worked. Number 11. Naturally fermented dill pickles. Most pickles sold in American grocery stores are not actually fermented. They are cucumbers soaked in vinegar brine, which creates the sour flavor through a chemical shortcut rather than through the slow, beneficial work of live bacteria. True fermented dill pickles are made using only salt, water, garlic, and dill, and the bacteria naturally present on the cucumber skin do all the rest. The difference matters enormously. Vinegar pickles are essentially dead food from a probiotic standpoint. Salt-fermented pickles are alive with lactobacillus bacteria that survive to your gut and go to work there. This was the only kind of pickle that existed before the industrial food system replaced traditional fermentation with cheap acetic acid and heat processing. Look for pickles in the refrigerated section of your grocery store that list only cucumbers, water, salt, garlic, and dill on the label. Better yet, making your own takes about 15 minutes of active preparation. You pack your cucumbers into a mason jar, add a 2% salt brine, seal it loosely, and leave it at room temperature for 3 to 5 days. What comes out is a genuinely probiotic food that your gut will recognize and reward. Think of real fermented pickles as the simplest and most satisfying first step into home fermentation you will ever take. Number 12. Sourdough bread. For most of human history, all bread was sourdough. Before commercial yeast was developed in the 1800s, bakers everywhere kept what they called a starter, a living culture of wild yeast and lactic acid bacteria that would leaven each loaf, while simultaneously fermenting the dough over many hours. The result was bread with a fundamentally different nutritional profile than anything baked with fast-acting commercial yeast. The long fermentation process in true sourdough does something remarkable. It breaks down the phytic acid in wheat, the same anti-nutrient we mentioned with tempeh, which in standard bread blocks the absorption of minerals like magnesium, zinc, and iron. Studies have shown that sourdough bread causes a significantly lower blood sugar response than conventional bread, even when the two are made from the same flour, because the acids produced during fermentation slow the breakdown of starches in the gut. Many people who cannot comfortably eat regular bread find that they tolerate genuine, long-fermented sourdough quite well. Look for bread from a local bakery that uses a natural starter and a minimum 12-hour fermentation, or seek out recipes to try at home. The difference between real sourdough and the sourdough-flavored loaf at most supermarkets is not a matter of taste alone. It is a matter of biology. Think of true sourdough bread as the version of wheat your body was always designed to work with, before speed replaced tradition. Number 13. Fermented garlic honey. Here is the one that surprises almost everyone, and if you are still watching at this point, you deserve to know about it. Fermented garlic honey is exactly what it sounds like. Raw garlic cloves submerged in raw honey and left to ferment slowly at room temperature for several weeks. The honey draws moisture from the garlic through osmosis. That moisture activates naturally occurring yeasts in the raw honey, and a slow, mild fermentation begins. What you end up with after 4 to 8 weeks is something extraordinary. The garlic becomes sweet, mellow, and deeply complex. The honey takes on a thinner consistency and a rich, savory depth. And both ingredients, which are already among the most studied natural antimicrobial and anti-inflammatory foods in existence, are transformed by fermentation into something greater than either one alone. Allicin, the active compound in garlic, becomes more bioavailable through fermentation. The enzymes and probiotic properties of raw honey are preserved and enhanced. Traditional Korean and Eastern European healers have been making versions of this preparation for centuries, using it to support immunity through the cold and flu season, to settle stomach complaints, and as a general tonic eaten 1 clove at a time in the morning. Making it yourself requires only 2 ingredients and a glass jar. This one belongs in your kitchen without question. Think of fermented garlic honey as the closest thing to a natural antibiotic you can make on your own countertop. Number 14. Lassi. If you have ever visited an Indian restaurant in the United States, you may have encountered a cool, creamy, yogurt-based drink served in a tall glass. That is lassi, and it has been part of Indian healing traditions for at least 3,000 years. The Ayurvedic system of medicine, which is one of the oldest comprehensive health systems on Earth, specifically prescribes lassi as a digestive aid, particularly for calming the gut after heavy meals and for cooling the body in hot weather. Traditional lassi is made by blending cultured yogurt with water, a pinch of salt, or a small amount of natural sweetener, and sometimes spices like cumin, cardamom, or turmeric. The dilution with water actually makes the probiotics in the yogurt more accessible to the gut because it reduces the concentration and allows the bacteria to survive the journey through the stomach more effectively. Cumin, which is a common addition, has its own well-documented digestive benefits, including reducing gas and bloating. When you combine active culture yogurt with cumin in a drink that is consumed before or during a meal, you are creating something that functions almost like a digestive enzyme supplement in liquid form. You can make a simple version at home in about 2 minutes with a blender. Think of lassi as one of the world's oldest digestive tonics and one of the easiest to prepare on any given afternoon. Number 15. Water kefir. Earlier in this video, we talked about dairy kefir and its remarkable probiotic content. But for anyone who is lactose intolerant or who simply prefers a dairy-free option, water kefir deserves its own entry because it is a fundamentally different product with its own distinct benefits. Water kefir is made using a different type of culture, a set of transparent granules that ferment sugar water, coconut water, or fruit juice into a lightly carbonated, probiotic-rich drink within 24 to 48 hours. The resulting beverage contains several different strains of beneficial bacteria and yeasts that differ from those in dairy kefir, which means that drinking both, if you are able to, actually exposes your gut to a broader and more diverse range of probiotic organisms. Microbiome diversity is increasingly considered one of the most important markers of gut health, and diversity appears to be protective against everything from allergies to autoimmune conditions. Water kefir grains are inexpensive, reusable indefinitely, and available through health food stores and online retailers. Once you have them, you can make a full batch of probiotic-rich water kefir for essentially the cost of a tablespoon of sugar, which makes it one of the most economical healing foods on this entire list. Think of water kefir as dairy kefir's lighter, more adaptable cousin, and one that belongs in more kitchens than it currently occupies. Number 16. Beet kvass. Beet kvass is different from the bread kvass we discussed earlier, though both share the same Eastern European heritage and the same ancient tradition of fermentation for survival. Beet kvass is made by fermenting raw beets with water and salt, a process that extracts and transforms the remarkable array of nutrients locked inside the beet into a deeply colored, tangy liquid tonic that healers in Ukraine, Poland, and Russia have relied on for centuries. Raw beets are already one of the most nutrient-dense vegetables you can eat, rich in nitrates that convert to nitric oxide in the body, a compound that relaxes blood vessel walls and supports healthy blood pressure. Fermentation concentrates these compounds and adds the probiotic benefit of lactic acid bacteria on top of everything the beet itself provides. Beet kvass is also rich in betaine, a compound that supports liver function and helps the body process and eliminate toxins efficiently. Some research suggests that the combination of fermented beet nitrates and probiotic organisms creates a synergistic effect on cardiovascular health that neither the raw beet nor a probiotic supplement alone can fully replicate. You can make beet kvass at home with raw beets, filtered water, and a pinch of salt. It is one of the most powerful things you can do for your cardiovascular system with something that costs almost nothing. Think of beet kvass as liquid medicine that looks like something your grandmother used to make, because she probably did. Number 17, injera. Most Americans are completely unfamiliar with injera, and that is a gap worth closing. Injera is the foundational bread of Ethiopian and Eritrean cooking, a large, spongy flatbread made from teff flour that has been fermented for 2 to 3 days before cooking. Teff is a tiny, ancient grain native to the Horn of Africa, gluten-free by nature, and extraordinarily rich in calcium, iron, and resistant starch. The fermentation process that transforms teff batter into injera breaks down much of the phytic acid in the grain and develops a complex sour flavor that defines the cuisine. Because injera is both the plate and the utensil in traditional Ethiopian dining, every meal consumed on it involves eating a meaningful amount of fermented teff. Populations in Ethiopia and Eritrea, where injera is consumed daily, show notably low rates of iron deficiency and celiac disease, partly because teff is naturally gluten-free, and partly because the fermentation increases the bioavailability of the minerals in the grain. You can find injera at Ethiopian restaurants in most American cities, and teff flour is increasingly available at health food stores for those who want to experiment at home. It is one of the most underappreciated fermented foods in the world. Think of injera as the table itself becoming part of the medicine, a tradition that is 2,000 years older than anything we would call modern nutrition science. Number 18, tepache. Tepache is a fermented drink from Mexico with roots stretching back to the pre-Columbian era, when indigenous peoples of what is now Mexico fermented corn, fruits, and various plants as both nourishment and ceremonial drink. The most common modern version is made from pineapple rinds and core, water, raw cane sugar, and a few warm spices like cinnamon and cloves. The natural yeasts on the pineapple skin drive a wild fermentation over 2 to 3 days at room temperature. What comes out of that process is a lightly effervescent, sweet and sour drink with very low alcohol content and a genuinely pleasant tropical flavor. The pineapple skin and core, typically discarded in American kitchens, are actually rich in bromelain, a powerful enzyme with well-documented anti-inflammatory properties. Fermentation preserves and potentially enhances bromelain's activity, while also generating probiotic organisms from the wild yeast fermentation. Tepache is now appearing on the menus of trendy restaurants and in the beverage aisles of natural food stores across the United States, but the most authentic and beneficial version is the one you make at home from whole pineapple scraps. It is a way to get a probiotic-rich, enzyme-active drink from fruit your kitchen would otherwise throw away. Think of tepache as turning what you would normally compost into something that genuinely heals you, and that is a very satisfying kind of alchemy. Number 19, fermented black garlic. Black garlic is made by fermenting regular garlic bulbs at low heat and high humidity over a period of several weeks until the cloves turn completely black, soft, and sweet. The flavor is extraordinary, resembling molasses and balsamic vinegar more than anything you would expect from garlic. But the healing properties are what make it genuinely remarkable. The slow fermentation and mild heat process converts allicin in the garlic into a compound called S-allylcysteine, which is more stable, more easily absorbed by the body, and more potent than the allicin in raw garlic. Research published in the Asian Pacific Journal of Cancer Prevention found that S-allylcysteine showed significant antioxidant activity and helped protect cells against oxidative damage, which is at the root of aging and chronic disease. Black garlic also shows more pronounced anti-inflammatory and cholesterol-lowering effects than raw garlic in multiple studies. Because the fermentation process makes the active compounds more bioavailable, You need less of it to get a meaningful benefit. Even 1 or 2 cloves eaten a few times a week can make a noticeable difference. You can find black garlic at most Asian grocery stores and increasingly at health food retailers and online. Think of black garlic as garlic that has been patiently upgraded, week by week, into something your body can use more completely than ever before. Number 20. Poi. We close today's list with one of the oldest fermented foods in all of Polynesian culture, a food that is sacred in native Hawaiian tradition, rarely discussed outside of Hawaii, and quietly one of the most fascinating examples of traditional wisdom being validated by modern science. Poi is made by cooking taro root and then pounding it with water into a smooth purple-gray paste that is left to ferment for 1 to several days. The resulting food is mildly sour, highly digestible, and uniquely gentle on the human gut. Hawaiian healers have used poi for generations as the first food given to infants, to the elderly, and to anyone recovering from illness or surgery, because it is so easily digested that it is considered almost universally tolerated. Taro root itself is rich in resistant starch, which feeds beneficial gut bacteria directly. Fermentation further breaks down the natural irritants in raw taro, making the nutrients fully accessible. Research out of the University of Hawaii has explored poi's potential as a hypoallergenic healing food, finding it uniquely supportive for people with digestive disorders, food sensitivities, and inflammatory conditions of the gut. In a world of complicated supplements and expensive health foods, poi is a reminder that some of the most powerful healing foods on Earth were discovered by people who had nothing but observation and time and a deep respect for the land. Think of poi as the quiet elder of this entire list, sitting at the end not because it is least important, but because it takes a lifetime of wisdom to fully appreciate. There you have it, 20 of the most powerful fermented foods that the human body has known across thousands of years and every corner of the world. From the bubbling jars of your own kitchen to the ancient markets of Japan, Korea, Ethiopia, and Hawaii, the knowledge has always been there. What changes is whether we choose to bring it back into our daily lives. The common thread running through all 20 of these foods is this: your gut is the center of your health, and feeding it well changes everything else. Your immune system gets stronger, your inflammation goes down, your blood sugar steadies, your brain works better, and none of it requires a prescription. If you are going to start somewhere, start with sauerkraut, or full-fat yogurt, or apple cider vinegar. Pick one. Add it to your routine for 30 days and pay attention to what changes. Now I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below right now and tell me, are you team kefir, team kimchi, or team kombucha? I read every single comment, and I want to know which fermented food you are most excited to try or which one you already swear by. If this video gave you something useful, please share it with someone you care about. These are the kinds of conversations that should be happening in every household. And if you have not subscribed yet, do it now. We are here every week bringing you the natural health and garden knowledge that the world needs more of. I am Timothy, and I will see you in the next one.